Thank you very much, everyone. Just a quick update on the agenda. I understand that the informal consultations that have been happening in the Executive Boardroom on the governance reform decision have been very constructive but are still continuing. They will be completed shortly. I think it's most efficient to let them conclude that work, and we can come back when they hopefully have reached, at least in that group, something that was a consensus. So what I will do now is instead, and I should also note, we also suspended the question of the date of the meeting. I'm happy if someone, Nepal or others, at some point could advise me where that's up to. Not resolved as yet. Okay, that's useful to know. So that's still an outstanding issue before we finish the agenda. But we will now move and open item 32, committees of the Executive Board, and consider the two sub-items together. In relation to item 32.1, Standing Committee on Health, Emergency Prevention, Preparedness and Response, the relevant report is contained in document EB 158/49. The Board is invited to note the report and consider the guiding questions in paragraph 16. In relation to item 32.2, Foundation Committees and Selection Panels, the relevant reports are as follows. Foundation Committees and Selection Panels contained in document EB 158/50, Administration of Public Health Prizes and Awards contained in document EB 158/51, with a draft decision in document EB 158/51 Add 1, and the financial and administrative implications of that decision contained in document EB 158/51 Add 2. The Board is invited to note the reports, to consider a draft decision in document EB 158/51 Add 1, as well as to consider the outcomes of the 6 panels that met under my chairpersonship for the prizes to be awarded in 2026. Before I open the floor, I have Dr. Chikwe here to make some introductory comments, and we were hoping that the chair of... Thank you. We're also going to start, not the chair of SHEPA not wearing her chili hat, but her chair hat would also make a brief introductory comment before going to Dr. Chikwe. You have the floor.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear Chair, and thank you very much for all the members as the Chair of SHEPA to take the floor on item 32.1. We would like to point out that this is a very important topic that members of the Executive Board are called to decide on a possible extension of the mandate of the committee. Now, as you know, upon the request of the members of this board, with EB 146, with that decision, the Secretariat drafted an information document with the objective of assessing possible duplication in the systems of the WHO to do with health emergencies. Chile appreciates and would like to thank the Secretariat for having drafted this document. Nevertheless, unfortunately, the document was circulated very late. It was sent out on Wednesday, which meant that we weren't able to analyze it in detail, and Capital didn't have time to look at it. We didn't have time to have an exchange between members of the EB on this document. In addition, this document does not clearly state whether there is or not a duplication of efforts between the different mechanisms, which was the objective of the analysis that had been requested. In line with this, and to be able to enrich the discussion on this item, and to make sure that we have more substantive exchange, and to make sure that the members of the EB provide guidelines to the Secretariat, as a chair of SHEPA, I would like to ask you very respectfully, I would like to ask the Secretariat very respectfully to give us a short briefing or explanation of this document, document EB 158/49, before opening the debate. And I would also like to make some guiding questions. is the program of Shepherd. Could it report directly to the EB? And secondly, what are the implications in terms of economic resources of maintaining this committee? And lastly, I would like to know what the implications would be in not extending the mandate of Shepherd. What would the member states be losing? I would like to thank the Secretariat and the Chair in advance for responding to these queries.
To Dr. Chikwe.
Thank you, Chair. And firstly, thanks to distinguished delegate from Chile for her expert chairing of this committee. So firstly, let me just assure distinguished delegates of our confidence in the governance mechanisms that we have across the emergencies program. And I'll try to quickly answer the three questions you posed. Firstly, the report that in front of you shows a table. The most important is a table in the paper that compares the functions of Shepherd versus a couple of other committees that work towards the same objectives. Firstly, to remind us that Shepherd was basically established to address two main functions. Firstly is to provide oversight, guidance, and monitoring for the WHO's emergencies program. And secondly, to provide guidance to the EB and advise the DG in the event of a public health emergency of international concern. For the first function, from our analysis that you can see on the paper, there is significant overlap with the functions of oversight with the Independent Oversight and Advisory Committee, the IOAC. And you will see the table illustrates what those areas are, and you can make your own conclusions on the level of oversight overlap. On the second function, we know there's a significant overlap between the functions of Shepherd and the emergency committees that are convened whenever there's a public health emergency of international concern under the provisions of the IHR. So please, that's what those two tables show. Also note that the contents of the Shepherd's report often are also reflected in the omnibus WHE report that also comes to both the EB and the Assembly every year. So that, I think, addresses your first question. Your second question, Chair, was on the resource implications. As you know, under the Member States' direction, the Secretariat has been going through an extensive prioritization exercise, which has led to a significant reduction in the resources available to the program. We've had a 25% cut in our staffing resources. Preparations for and convening Shepherd take considerable time, space, and resources. Over the last two meetings, there was a direct overlap between the meeting of the Shepherd and the IGWIG, meaning that the small WHE team left was facilitating and preparing for two governance meetings in parallel at the same time, two fiscal meetings. And this is in a time where the resources available to us are decreasing every day. So I think the resource implications of this have to be considered in the context of a continuation of these functions. On the third question, the consequences of Shepherd discontinuing. Just to note that we are in the process of setting up several other governance committees, the state parties for the implementation of the IHR, the coordinating financial mechanisms for IHR and the pandemic agreement, the Conference of Parties under the Pandemic Agreement. All these are new governance mechanisms in the process of being set up. So finally, in this context, we encourage you to carefully consider how best to ensure the coherence, complementarity, and efficiency across the evolving health emergency governance architecture while minimizing duplication and optimizing the use of limited Secretariat resources. In this case, if not, we might have to have a new committee to oversee the governance committees of the emergencies program. So, Chair, I pass it back to you.
Thank you very much. I now open the floor to Executive Board members. The floor is open. I give the floor to Norway, followed by the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Chair. I will start with agenda item 32.1. We thank the Secretariat for their report on the governance and oversight mechanism for health emergency. Last year, the EB chose to extend the mandate of Shepherd for an additional year, with the expectation that careful consideration would be given to the added value of this committee, particularly in context where we must support the Secretariat in increasing financial and structural efficiency. At the same time, we are in the process of establishing 3 new mechanisms linked to the IHR and the pandemic agreement, which will make additional demands on the Secretariat and the Member States. A clear option for improving coherence, coordination and efficiency in governance mechanism for health emergencies and crisis response is to streamline where possible, including through reducing the number of mechanisms. With appreciation to all Member States that have served on the committee, as well as participated actively in its meetings, we must now ensure that the newly established mechanisms are operational and fit for purpose. And for this reason, Norway maintains the position we held during this debate at EB 1 year ago on not extending the Shepherd mandate. On agenda item 32.2, Norway supports the draft decision. In our view, it strengthens sustainable financing, improves integrity and fairness, ensures more equitable regional participation, and increases transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the Republic of Korea, followed by Egypt.
Thank you, Chair. The Republic of Korea would like to thank the WHO Secretariat for providing a summary of gaps and duplication analysis in item 32.1. While the mandates and functions of IOIAC and Shepherd may differ, we recognize that there are areas of overlap. As discussions continue regarding the Conference of Parties under the Amendment IHR and the Pandemic Agreement, the Republic of Korea believes that a careful and thorough approach is essential to determining the future of Shepherd. We remain flexible and welcome continued dialogue, reaffirming our commitment to constructive engagement in this important process. Also, we express our appreciation to the Secretariat for the report and draft decision on item 32.2. We support the Secretariat's plan to enhance the efficiency of Foundation Award administration by introducing clearer selection criteria and by strengthening transparency in the review process, including through the rotational participation of executive board members from all 6 regions on selection panels. In particular, as some awards are already administered in accordance with such criteria, the consistent application of transparent standards across all awards conferred by WHO would contribute to strengthening the overall authority and credibility of WHO prizes. In addition, we acknowledge the Secretariat's assessment that additional financial resources are required to ensure the sustainable operation of WHO awards. However, the securing additional financial contributions require further coordination. Under these circumstances, the Republic of Korea encourages the Secretariat to devise various cost efficiency measures. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Japan, followed by Lesotho.
Egypt first.
Oh, sorry, Egypt.
Egypt, may I ask you to click, please?
Chair, I'm very honored to deliver this statement on behalf of the Member States of the EMRO region. We welcome the report on mandates and functions of the governance and oversight mechanisms for health emergencies and the Standing Committee's contribution to informing the Board of evolving health emergencies and providing a forum for Member States' engagement on prevention, preparedness and response. We note the challenges outlined in the report, including the lack of documented recommendations and guidance to the Board and mixed views on the necessity of extraordinary meetings, the limited participation of members in preparatory work and the overlap with other oversight bodies, such as the Independent Oversight and Advisory Committee, are areas of concern that highlight the need for better alignment and focus to maximize the impact of the committee. Regarding the extension of the committee's mandate, we believe this has merit provided the terms of reference are refined to address the challenges identified. Clearer objectives, streamlined rules, and improved coordination with other oversight bodies should be considered to improve its effectiveness. Addressing logistical concerns such as the timely sharing of documents and better engagement with external experts would strengthen its work. While the Standing Committee has contributed to keeping the board ready to act during emergencies, it's important to ensure that its operation add tangible values to the broader health emergency response systems. I thank you.
Thank you. Japan, followed by Lesotho.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, Japan appreciates the reports provided by the Secretariat. Regarding item 32.1, Japan considers it important to advance a comprehensive review and rationalization of the entire governance architecture for health emergencies, including the committees referenced in this report. We believe that pursuing a sustainable, coherent system for WHO's overall health emergency response is needed. We recognize that this is an appropriate phase to examine whether overlaps exist among these and other related mechanisms and whether further efficiency can be achieved. Japan remains committed to engaging constructively in the discussions toward a more streamlined and effective governance and oversight mechanisms for health emergencies. Regarding item 32.2, we recognize that the Foundation prizes play an important role in global health by honoring individuals and organizations that have made significant contributions to the improvement of public health. Given that the Director General serves as an administrator of these foundation prizes, it is essential that their management upholds the highest levels of sustainability, fairness, transparency, and independence. With regard to decision paragraph 2 in document EB 158/51 at 1, we would like the Secretariat to clarify on whether the selection panels actually possesses the authority to amend the statutes or regulations of each foundation. Drawing on Japan's experience on selection panels, we stand ready to contribute constructively to ensuring that the foundation prizes continue to be operated in an appropriate and effective manner. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'll go to Lesotho, followed by Thailand.
Thank you, Chair, DG, honorable delegates. The Kingdom of Lesotho has the honor to deliver this statement under agenda item 32.1 on behalf of the member states of the WHO African region. We welcome the report of the Standing Committee on Health Emergency Prevention, Preparedness, and Response, and thank the DG for highlighting persistent fragmentation in the global PPR architecture, remaining gaps in IHR 2005 capacities, and the continued challenges in achieving equitable and sustainable finance preparedness systems. The African region acknowledges important progress, including strengthened IHR capacities through PROS, TAS, and SURGE, improved surveillance performance, expanded operational readiness with functional emergency operations center in 42 countries, and updated contingency plans in 44, and strengthened One Health collaboration. We also welcome progress under the pandemic agreement and growing regional leadership in developing national PPR roadmaps and contributing to global financing mechanisms. However, we remain concerned that global PPR governance remains fragmented, financing unpredictable, and LMIC's representation insufficient in key decision-making platforms. These limitations hinder countries' ability to build resilient, risk-informed health systems and to ensure equitable access to countermeasures and sustained capacity building. Lesotho underscores the critical importance of the Standing Committee as a key mechanism for accountability and oversight. We support its continued strengthening, particularly its focus on actionable recommendations, and systematic follow-up. Oversight must lead to tangible improvements in country-level preparedness, and we encourage stronger linkages between Sherpa deliberations, executive board decisions, and implementation on the ground. The African region, therefore, calls for equitable LMIC representation across all PPR governance platforms, reaffirmation of WHO's central coordination role, predictable long-term PPR financing, strengthened national legal frameworks aligned with the IHR, and greater investment in local manufacturing, supply chain resilience, and health workforce development. We further support the establishment of an independent mill mechanism with meaningful participation of civil society, academia, and LMICs. We reaffirm our commitment to a coherent, equitable, and effective global PPR architecture that strengthens readiness and resilience across the African region. Thank you.
Thank you, and I go to Thailand, followed by Haiti.
Thank you, Chair. Thailand thanks the Director General for the comprehensive report in document EB 158/49 and appreciates the clear mapping of mandates and functions of governance and oversight mechanisms for health emergencies. Thailand highly values the important mandates and the dedicated work of both the Independent Oversight and Advisory Committee and the Standing Committee on Health Emergency Prevention, Preparedness and Response, which have contributed to strengthening oversight, accountability, and guidance of the WHO Health Emergency Program. While recognizing their different roles and modalities, Thailand notes areas of functional overlap and see merit in exploring options to combine or further align these committees with a view to reducing duplication, enhancing coherence, and improve overall efficiency of governance and oversight. Thailand also agrees in principle that international health emergency mechanism should be overseen in a coordinated manner by unified governing bodies to enhance effective implementation and looks forward to further guidance from the board. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Haiti, followed by Israel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We would like to express our recognition for the substantial work that has been carried out by Shepherd since its establishment. We would like to recall that this body was established as a temporary mechanism that had a specific mandate and that was time-bound, and an extension was already granted until the end of the previous World Health Assembly. If a new extension, or until the end of this World Health Assembly, if a new extension should be granted, then this needs to be time-bound, and there needs to be a specific target. Now, for the future, our collective responsibility is to ensure that there is clear prioritization within the WHO and a reinforcement of the effectiveness of our governance structures. We believe that the mandate that has been given to Shepherd can be progressively included in the mechanism that already exists to reduce the administrative burden that exists, all the while ensuring the continuity of its functions. Regarding health emergencies, we would like to welcome the quality of the report. It is absolutely essential that the oversight mechanisms as well as coordination mechanisms operate consistently and in a complementary fashion to avoid any overlap. There are important advances that have been made, and these rules of procedure that have been decided upon should help with the implementation of the regulation harmoniously with the existing structures. We have the 10th anniversary of the WHO Health Emergencies Program, and here we have the opportunity to streamline our structures, to clarify roles, as well as guarantee a simpler governance that is fully operational, be implemented for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Now give the floor to Israel, followed by Panama.
Thank you, Chair. Given all considerations of overlap and given the cost implications, And since we are all interested in achieving efficiency, Israel is not in a position to support extending the mandate of SHPR. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I give the floor to Panama, followed by Bruno Darussalam.
Gracias. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We would like to thank SHPR for their report regarding their mandate and functions, even though it is unfortunate that it was only shared quite late. We value the work of SHPR, and after having analyzed the report, it is very clear that there should not be any overlaps between the bodies that deal with health emergencies. Avoiding overlap increases the effectiveness of the management of emergencies. We see that other bodies have been established, and after quite a long time, they no longer have a mandate. Now, the reference to the COP and the agreement, and the WHO pandemic agreement, is quite confusing. SHPR and other committees could perhaps have technical cooperation. It is clear that the mandates that have been defined by the COP could only be applied to the parties, whereas the mandates for the Assembly are applied to all member states. We hope that in the future we will be able to find convergence. The Secretary to the WHO should establish and strengthen synergies between the different committees to be able to preserve technical management. When the pandemic agreement enters into force, the Assembly will have to establish synergies with other bodies to see how they can coordinate better. It would be better to spend time thinking about which committees are truly necessary. The Council can promote coherence, effectiveness in the functioning of the supervision of the existing mechanisms in the area of health emergencies, and they should foster synergies that have clear mandates and analyze all of the reports that come out of these committees. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Bruno Darussalam.
Thank you, Chair. Bruno Darussalam takes note of the report by the DG on the mandates and functions of the governance and oversight mechanisms for health emergencies. Our assessment is that the report provides a very helpful overview of the current governance landscape, but from our perspective, additional clarity on functional implications, transition arrangements, and risk management would be needed to support a fully informed decision at this stage. Importantly, several key mechanisms referenced in the report, including the States Parties Committee, the Conference of Parties for the WHO Pandemic Agreement, and the Coordinating Financial Mechanism, do not yet have agreed terms of references. In the absence of these TORs, it is premature to draw firm conclusions on duplications or overlap. Any consideration of the future of SHPR should therefore be guided by a clear assessment of whether its functions are sufficiently anchored elsewhere and whether alternative mechanisms can provide the same level of continuity, accountability, and strategic oversight without creating gaps. We look forward to further clarity on how these functions will be strengthened and institutionalized within WHO's governance architecture to ensure no loss of momentum at this critical juncture. Thank you.
I see there's no more executive board members seeking to take the floor. Therefore, I open the floor to member states not members of the executive board. I note that China was top of the list and dropped off, so we're just going to put China and give China the floor first. I'll give you the floor, China.
Thank you, Chair. China takes note of SHPR's efforts in addressing health emergencies and preventing future pandemics, as well as its targeted recommendations and updates. China appreciates the important achievements made by colleagues across all regions over the past year. We also express concern regarding challenges related to financing, human resources, and staff safety. China will continue to support WHO's leading and coordinating role in global health governance, actively participate in initiatives and programs related to emergency response, and stands ready to support and work with WHO on global health emergency response. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to France, followed by Belgium.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, 6 years after the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, our vigilance when it comes to health security remains vital. The establishment of SHEPR met a clear need. It strengthened the commitment of Member States around the emergency programme in order to improve our collective ability to face emerging threats. And that need remains fully relevant today. For that reason, France is committed to the function that is carried out by SHEPR, that is to say, follow-up and exchange of views involving Member States and the Secretariat on the activities, challenges and other activities that are undertaken under the auspices of the HEP. We therefore believe that it does not necessarily mean, in the world in which we live today, that that would keep SHEPR as a self-standing body. It could be grouped with other bodies, given the indispensable streamlining we're involved in today. France wishes to continue to think about this and is willing to contribute to future discussion. Thank you.
I give Belgium the floor, followed by the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding item 32.1, Belgium wishes to emphasize the importance of a dedicated and inclusive governance structure for Member States' oversight over the actions of the Secretariat in public health emergencies. Open discussions among experts are highly needed in this area. Although we established SHEPR in the aftermath of COVID-19 pandemic, a pandemic which is now behind us, this does not diminish the relevance of such a platform today. We continue to be faced with public health emergencies across the globe, underscoring the need for sustained oversight in this area. At the same time, Belgium considers it appropriate to evaluate the current mandate and functioning of the committee. As part of this reflection, the integration and streamlining of governance mechanisms for health emergencies could constitute a constructive way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the SHEPR was established as a mechanism to promote the openness of this organization, its openness to the public, when it came to combating unreliable information and to strengthening our response to emergencies. We saw there was a need to do something. That's why this committee was established. And it's important for communication with Member States on relevant current issues. We think we need to strengthen the coordinating role of this, and we need to ensure that substantive discussion is undertaken and that we expand the participation of countries within it. This kind of approach could enhance the effectiveness of the reform proposed today within WHO, optimizing the use of the agenda of the EB and the WHA. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do not see any member states seeking the floor. Double check no observer or UN bodies which should take the floor. No. Therefore, we can proceed. Now, I'm about to group the reports, the three reports, and ask the board to take note of them. Just for clarity for the members to be clear, the report EB 158/49 does not include an extension of SHEPR, so that will be a matter that will be considered later. Certainly I've listened to the conversation. There seem to be mixed views on that, so I think it'd be hard to do a definitive thing at this point in time. EB 15850 and EB 15851 relate to the selection of the prizes. I did hear a comment for Japan regarding the capacity for selection panels. If you don't mind, we'll take that when we come to the decision point, because I think you have a valid point, but it doesn't affect the noting of the reports. So with that, can I take it the board is ready to note the report contained in documents EB 158/49, EB 158/50 and EB 158/51? I see no objection. The reports are noted. Now let us consider one draft decision contained in document EB 158/51 Add 1 entitled Foundation Committees and Selection Panels, Administration of Public Health Prizes and Awards. Japan raised the question in that document. Para 2 says decided to recommend to the respective selection panels take such steps as are necessary, and then it lists three different things, including amending their regulations. And I think the point Japan is making is some of those things are not within the power of the selection panels, they would be in the power of the foundation organisations. So I think my question to the Secretariat, we probably need a form of words that broadens that to selection panels, and other bodies that have, other bodies or other, something that captures the fact that the selection panels themselves don't control, for example, the regulations. They're typically the regulations of the prize foundations themselves. If we made an amendment to that effect, would that satisfy Japan? Yep, thank you. So I think what we would do then is amend it to recommend to the respective selection panels and the relevant foundations, yep, to take such steps as necessary, so that broadens it out. So then I will put to the board, will the board accept the draft decision as amended contained in document EB 158/51 add 1 entitled Foundation Committees and Selection Panels, Administration of Public Health Prizes and Awards? Is the board ready to adopt the decision? I see no objections. It's so adopted. Okay. Next, let us consider the outcomes of the 6 panels that met under my chairpersonship for the prize to be awarded in 2026. These are contained in document EB 158/50. These awards reward and commend the remarkable contributions of distinguished individuals and institutions whose exemplary commitment surpasses the bounds of ordinary duty, rendering essential services, averting diseases, advancing health and well-being, and preserving lives and leaving no one behind. In my capacity as chair of the selection panels, I would like to thank the distinguished members of the board who served as selection panel members this year. I would also like to thank the Secretariat. It takes a lot of work to diligently go through all the candidates that come forward, assess them against criteria, and provide advice to the selection committees, which makes our work possible. So I sincerely thank the Secretariat for undertaking that work. First, the Sasakawa Health Prize selection panel met on Monday, the 2nd of February 2026. The panel proposes that the Sasakawa Health Prize for 2026 be awarded to the Bankoni Community Health Association in Mali. I invite the board to accept by consensus the recommendation of the selection panel. In the absence of any objection, it is so decided. Second, the United Arab Emirates Health Foundation Prize selection panel met on Monday, the 2nd of February 2026. The panel proposes that United Arab Emirates Health Foundation Prize for 2026 be awarded to Dr. Warawit Tontiwata Nasab from Thailand. I invite the board to accept by consensus the recommendation of the selection panel. It is so decided. Third, the Dr. Lee Jong-wook Memorial Prize for Public Health selection panel met on Tuesday, the 3rd of February 2026. The panel proposes that Dr. Lee Jong-wook Memorial Prize for Public Health for 2026 be awarded to Professor Muhammad Abul Faiz of Bangladesh. I invite the board to accept by consensus the recommendation of the selection panel. In the absence of any objection, it is so decided. Fourth, the State of Kuwait Health Promotion Foundation's His Highness Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmad Al Jaber Al Sabah Prize for the Promotion of Healthy Ageing selection panel met on Tuesday, the 3rd of February 2026. The panel proposes that the 2026 prize be awarded jointly to Professor Bruno Vellis of France and Sing Health Singapore. I invite the board to accept by consensus the recommendation of the selection panel. In the absence of any objection, it is so decided. The Ihsan Drogmachi Family Health Foundation prize selection panel met on Tuesday, the 3rd of February 2026. The panel proposes that the 2026 prize shall not be awarded. Considering the hard work done by the candidates and WHO member states in submitting excellent applications, I encourage them to resubmit their applications once criteria are available for the awarding of the prize. I invite the board to accept by consensus the recommendation of the selection panel. I see no objection. It is so decided. The Nelson Mandela Award for Health Promotion selection panel met on Wednesday, the 4th of February 2026. The panel proposes that the Nelson Mandela Award for Health Promotion for 2026 be awarded to Dr. Amr Mohammed Kandil of Egypt. I invite the board to accept by consensus the recommendation of the selection panel. In the absence of any objection, it is so decided. I ask the Secretariat to prepare decisions reflecting our agreement on this matter. This concludes the Board's consideration of item 32. Let us turn to the next item. We shall now take up item 33, staffing matters, and consider the following sub-items together. 33.1, statement by the representative of the WHO's staff associations, contained in document EB 158 INF 1. 33.2, report of the Ombudsperson, contained in document EB 158/INF/2. 33.3, human resources update, contained in document EB 158/52. The Secretariat has also provided an overview of WHO's prioritisation and realignment process undertaken in 2025, and this report is contained in document EB 158/52 Add 1. 33.4, amendments to the staff regulations and staff rules, contained in document EB 158/53, with the financial and administrative implications for the Secretariat of the proposed resolutions in EB 158/53 Add 1. And 33.5, report of the International Civil Service Commission, contained in EB 158/54. We shall now hear the statement by the representative of the WHO staff associations. Dr. Gautam Basu, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Honourable Chair, Director General, distinguished delegates, and my dear colleagues from all across WHO. This verbal statement delivered by the President of the Southeast Asia Staff Association is complementary to and in continuation of the written statement presented by the staff associations to the Board. This is issued on behalf of all staff members of WHO, IARC, PAHO, and UNAIDS. On the organisation-wide prioritisation and restructuring exercise in 2025, the staff associations first wish to commend some positive developments in staff management engagement initiated by the Director General. We welcome the continued collaboration between management, GEO and staff associations, which have supported more structured dialogue. We also particularly appreciate the improved communication efforts introduced late last year, including the HR newsletters, which were very well received. At the same time, we note that earlier and more regular communication would have helped reduce uncertainty, rumours and anxiety among staff during a very difficult period. Finally, staff have expressed appreciation for the Director General's advocacy of duty of care, including the exceptional measures taken where possible to support colleagues. This said, we regret to state that there are matters of concern that have been adverse to the best interests of staff. On account of the many positions abolished and the increased burden of work on residual staff, precarious contracts of durations limited to a few months are being issued and reinstated to fill workload gaps. We welcome management's commitment to prioritise staff who have lost their positions, including through the use of the talent pool, and encourage its consistent application. Staff are concerned that it is not clear which tasks WHO staff will no longer be undertaking given the reduced workforce. Member states still expect WHO to fulfill pre-crisis work-level programs. Such expectations will invariably lead to increased pressure on staff as well as an increase in the numbers of consultant contracts, undermining an already tenuous contractual situation for many. We urge management to prepare a rationale for the hiring of consultants and not use this option to merely fill work gaps. The staff associations also highlight that staff should not and cannot do more work with less. While there is a reduction in human resource capacity across departments, activities continue at the volume prior to prioritization. This is particularly so with administrative assistance, where staff in some cases now support more than 10 technical officers in daily functions. Cascading overshoots in workload will create an avalanche of mental health issues. In this context, not all regions have qualified ombudspersons or impartial advice and mediation regardless of location. Mental health support is most effective when it is accessible and relatable. We wish to draw the Board's attention to challenges experienced in the operation of the internal justice system, particularly in relation to administrative reviews. Staff have raised concerns regarding extensions to response deadlines communicated very late. Greater predictability, earlier communication of anticipated delays, and clear confirmation of how appeal deadlines are calculated are essential to protect staff rights and maintain confidence in the system. We welcome the continuation of flexible working arrangements and are happy to see that the draft policy has seen positive advancements over the one that it superseded. Chair, I thank you.
Thank you for that. Next, I give the floor to Ms. Susanna Skarupa, the Ombudsperson for the WHO European region, who will introduce the report on behalf of all Ombuds. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I have the pleasure of speaking on behalf of the WHO Ombudspersons Network, and I'm joined also by our HQ Ombudsperson, Abba Angra Tambwe, seated next to me. The role of the organizational ombudsperson is unique and distinct from other key support functions, from the staff association and from the administration, and yet we all work together to address the complexities and challenges of organizational life. Very recently, the UN Joint Inspection Unit, the JIU, released its report on the review of the ombudsman and mediation function in the UN system organizations. In it, the inspector leaves no doubt that our informal interventions are effective. Informal does not mean optional. Likewise, the PBAC recognized the importance of the Ombuds function in supporting informal resolution, and we therefore welcome the Secretariat's commitment to expediting the recruitment of ombudspersons in those regions where vacancies exist, and we hope at HQ as well in the future. In the organizational sciences, it has long been established that modernizing bureaucracy strongly benefits from strengthening informal mechanisms to increase effectiveness and save time and cost. And yet, we tend to invest in such sophisticated corporate architectures and mechanisms, and then sometimes not use them to their full potential. So when we speak about organizational culture, this is it, the gap between what we say and what we do. And this gap actually provides the space and opportunity to examine those essential issues we as ombudspersons have been raising for a long time, such as the fear of retaliation, the lack of dialogue, relational conflict, performance management problems, and issues related to contract types, in a collaborative rather than an adversarial way. At the same time, an organizational culture without tension and conflict is not our goal either. Conflict is, for better or worse, a normal part of life and of any workplace. It is, however, how we work with it that will make the difference. One of the core facets of the Ombuds mandate is the systemic view we are able to obtain across the organization and offer to our key stakeholders. In our direct experience during the last year, there has been a real difficulty in reconciling views. As we noted in our report, the organization has offered many positive initiatives during this period, and efforts have been made to treat staff in a humane manner and address issues as they arise. And yet, depending on where an actor is located within the organization, what their position and task is, and how exactly they have been impacted by the reprioritization, they are likely to have had very different experiences. We have been passing through a period where this has resulted in a tendency of an unhelpful us versus them way of thinking and behaving. We as ombudspersons are very interested in working with the organization to repair that rift through collaborative approaches and, of course, especially dialogue. In closing, allow me to repeat, informal does not mean optional. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll next pass the floor to Mr. Patrick Nicolia, Director of Human Resources and Talent Management, to introduce the three remaining reports.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished delegates, as you know, PBAC held extensive discussions on WHO's prioritization and realignment process. Given the importance of this topic, I would like to briefly reinforce a few key points before your discussion. First, I want to acknowledge the very real human impact this past year has had on our colleagues, professionally, personally, and emotionally. I also wish to express our sincere appreciation to all staff, those continuing with WHO, those departing, and those who supported colleagues through uncertainty and transition, including our ombudspersons, staff associations, staff health and well-being services, and the HR teams. The realignment sought to balance financial sustainability with the preservation of essential technical capacity. Throughout this process, we were guided by three principles: transparency, fairness, and humanity. On transparency, we designed and implemented the process in close collaboration and partnership with staff associations. They were not only consulted, but actively participated in governance, including as full members of the ad hoc review committees, which made recommendations to the Director General. I would like to thank the staff associations for their constructive collaboration throughout this process. Engagement with staff was sustained from design through implementation, with over 95 meetings with staff associations and numerous departmental consultations. Staff were kept informed through timely sharing of documentations, town halls, and 30 weekly newsletters addressing key concerns from staff as of May 2025. 2 global pulse survey and structured feedback mechanisms allowed us to adjust actions as issues emerged. On fairness, staff association played a central role across review and oversight mechanisms, including validation of all ad hoc review committee reports prior to senior leadership decisions. To our knowledge, WHO is among a very small number of international organizations to involve staff representation so extensively in formal governance processes, and we believe this is the right thing to do. Decisions were communicated through structured one-to-ones discussions with each of the 1,241 staff directly affected. We also implemented targeted time-bound special measures covering areas such as relocation, home leave, education grants, parental leave, and extended notice periods for temporary staff, along with additional safeguards for particularly vulnerable cases. On humanity, we strengthened well-being support through expanded access to counselors and mediation workshop. A workforce transition support hub was established to provide coordinated assistance, including career workshops, counseling, and briefings on insurance, pension, entitlements, and internal justice. Through conservative planning and non-invasive measures such as voluntary early retirement, mutual separation, and natural attrition, 48% of separation, 1,162 cases, were managed without formal redundancy measures. Nonetheless, as of January 2026, we project a total of 2,403 departures by end of June 2026, including 1,241 unavoidable separations. Distinguished delegates, this has been a profoundly emotional process. While not everything can be foreseen in decisions affecting livelihoods, we have worked case by case to address concerns, and we are continuing to do so. We welcome lessons learned and remain fully committed to organizational learning and continuous improvement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. As these items were discussed by PBAC, I shall draw your attention to the report of the committee contained in document EB 158/4, paragraphs 44 to 57. I would like to invite the Secretariat to read out the recommendations of the PBAC.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to item 33, staffing matters, the committee welcomed the statement from the staff associations and expressed deep appreciation for the resilience and commitment of the WHO workforce at such a challenging time. The committee also expressed appreciation for the report of the Ombudsperson, recognizing the importance of the Ombudsperson's function in supporting informal resolution. The committee recommended that the Executive Board note the reports contained in documents EB 158/52, EB 158/52 Add 1, EB 158/53, and EB 158/54, and proposed, as guidance for the Secretariat's implementation of existing mandates, that the Secretariat should continue to make every effort to ensure equitable geographical representation and gender parity. The committee further recommended that the Executive Board adopt the draft resolution to confirm the amendments to the staff regulations and staff rules, and for the Executive Board to recommend that the Health Assembly adopt the draft resolution on remuneration of staff in ungraded positions and of the Director General as contained in document EB 158/53. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now open the floor in the first instance to members of the Executive Board to comment on the recommendations of PBAC. The floor is open. I give the floor to Japan.
Thank you, Chair. Japan would like to reiterate its deep respect for the staff who continue to dedicate themselves to fulfilling the organization's missions. We strongly expect that fairness and transparency in both the process and the resulting decisions will be fully ensured across all levels of the organization under the current prioritization and realignment process. In this context, Japan also recognizes the concerns raised by the Staff Association that member states are still requesting the same volume of work from WHO as before the crisis. Therefore, we will continue to engage WHO to encourage WHO to focus on its core mandates and ourselves as member states to maintain self-discipline to make the organization efficient, effective, and sustainable. Furthermore, the role of the ombudsperson is particularly more important than ever. We would like to request the Secretariat to urgently fill vacant positions in regional offices. Regarding workforce reallocation, we would like the Secretariat to clarify the Secretariat's views on whether essential functions and activities are being adequately maintained. Japan also would like to encourage the Secretariat to provide further information on staffing changes and hold accountability and transparency. We also encourage the Secretariat to ensure that efforts related to staff performance management are not deprioritized or overlooked. Turning to the proposed amendments to the staff regulations and staff rules, regarding the draft resolution 2, we request the Secretariat to manage the financial implications as discussed during PBAC. In conclusion, Japan continues to support WHO to be a sustainable and sound organization respecting human resources at its core. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Togo, followed by Cameroon.
Thank you very much, dear Chair. Togo has the honor of delivering the statement on behalf of the 47 member states of the African region of the WHO. We would like to thank the Secretariat for the quality of these documents. The African region would like to particularly pay tribute to those that are working in a context where there are many different crises, where their limits to endurance are tested every single day, and their duty is to ensure that peace is established. The African region recognizes that the process of prioritization realignment has deeply disturbed the functioning of the staff in all of regions. We understand that resources are very limited. The African region, the WHO, would like to commend the ombudsperson that through their activities and actions play an important role as mediator and support to victims of professional harassment. The African region would like to welcome these points that have to do with the prioritization, the systemic concerns, and the recommendations that have been issued regarding the reinforcement of training and the improvement of institutional culture, as well as measures that have been taken to prevent conflicts, as well as the strengthening of amicable settlement mechanisms. These are key priorities. We are aware of the importance of having a work environment that is respectful. The African region has therefore decided to have more awareness raising in the African region regarding the role of the ombudsperson, the participation to dialogue sessions, as well as to initiatives that aim to promote respectful practices in the workplace. We would also like to underscore the progress that have been made in amicable settlement mechanisms that have reduced resorting to formal complaint settlement mechanisms. The African region encourages the Secretary of the WHO to continue supporting the ombudsperson to try to find problems to the main difficulties that have been found in this previous year and to respond better to the different concerns of various actors and to implement the recommendations. We take note of the reports. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Cameroon.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me the floor, dear Chair. Cameroon has the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the 47 member states on 33.1, 33.2, 33.3, and 33.4. On behalf of the 47 member states of the WHO African region, the region commends the Director General for the quality of his report on the human resources strategy, the amendments to the staff regulations and staff rules, and the recommendations of the ICSC. The WHO African region welcomes the progress achieved in transforming human resources management. However, the African region continues to bear nearly 1/4 of the global disease burden, while accounting for only 3% of the world's health workforce. This reflects a dire shortage. This imbalance is driven by multiple constraints, including limited training and recruitment capacity, an uneven distribution of health personnel that disproportionately affects rural areas, and qualified professionals leaving and going to other regions. This is often prompted by precarious working conditions that undermine retention efforts. The WHO African region is calling on the development of a new global strategic framework that is more ambitious and more equitable, as well as strengthen collaboration and shared expertise to promote a fair and inclusive international civil service. We reaffirm our commitment to implementing all initiatives aimed at strengthening the health workforce and advancing priority health objectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see no other members of Executive Board seeking the floor. Therefore, I open the floor to member states who are not members of the Executive Board. The floor is open. I give the floor to Turkey, followed by the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Chair. Turkey appreciates the Secretariat's efforts during the challenging period and underscores this crucial importance of the safeguarding human resources for WHO's normative and operational role. We underline the importance of the deploying human resources in ways that maximize impact at the country level, with a focus on the effective use of highly qualified technical expertise through flexible and cross-cutting modalities of work. We also believe that recruitment of the workforce planning would be strengthened by being more systemically informed by country context, needs, and national priorities through close consultation with member states to enhance alignment, ownership, and effectiveness. We encourage the Secretariat to establish a regular and secured reporting mechanism for host member states on country office staffing, providing information on the levels, profiles, and areas of work to strengthen transparency, accountability, and strategic planning. I thank you.
Thank you. The Russian Federation, followed by Angola.
Chair, we support the recommendations that have been made as to the need to achieve equitable geographical representation of staff in the course of the restructuring of WHO. In that context, we consider that further recruitment to WHO of a reduced number of staff should not be considered as internal candidates. In order to be free in terms of participation in competition and in order to improve the geographical balance, it is necessary that professionals who have been dismissed can participate in these competitive exams without preference on the same level as other external candidates. The experience of WHO is particularly relevant in the context of UN80, that reform initiative. We would therefore ask the Secretary to consider the possibility of preparing a separate analytical report on the impact of the transformations underway right now on the effectiveness of carrying out the mandate of this organization. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the chair to Angola.
Thank you, Chair. We recognize that in context of health emergency, resource restriction and rising public expectation, the dedication of W staff remain the cornerstone for ensuring support and effective response. At the same time, we recall that institutional resilience is also linked to well-being, motivation, and workers' sense of inclusion. Justice and respectful work environment, strengthening individuals and WHO collective capacity to proceed its mandate, In this context, Angola encourages WHO DG to ensure that the ongoing reform continues to observe gender balance and special attention to WHO workers with disability. Finally, to WHO staff, we want to encourage to remain resilient. Crises come and ends, but WHO will remain and everything will be fine. Obrigado.
Thank you very much. I see no further calls for the floor. I assume there are no observers or UN bodies that are wishing to join the conversation. Therefore, I will ask the Secretariat, Mr. Patrick Nicolia, Director of Human Resources and Talent Management, whether he wants to reply to any of those comments.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to all the distinguished delegates for your questions and for your comments. We are definitely highly committed on transparency and fairness, and we understand the concerns that relate to the workload. We are currently in a period of post-restructuring readjustment. We will continue definitely our efforts to ensure that we're going to fill our critical vacancies linked to the core mandate in order to ensure the financial sustainability of the organization, but along those lines also the well-being of our staff members. And we're in that regard going to invest extensively in new ways of working and in terms of learning and development strategies relating to digitalization as well to support staff members within the organization. In terms of key priorities, I've heard some comments, and I thank you for that, related to performance management and leadership development. Now that the situation is getting a little bit calmer, we can reassure you that leadership development and performance management is part of the priorities for 26-27. On internal justice and the ability for us to be resolving the issues through informal means, we will definitely continue to invest in this place. We believe that it can help us refrain from having formal processes. I think the difficulty in 2025 particularly has been the time constraint that we have faced in order to be able to engage in such processes as extensively as we would have liked. The points around geographical representation and gender are well taken. We will try to mitigate the geographical representation concerns that we have through the timely filling of the vacancies as part of the restructuring. And as mentioned at PBAC, we will also engage in a targeted consultation with the concerned member states. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Before I conclude this item, I believe Dr. Tedros would like to make a few comments. DG.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to add to what Patrick said. I think he basically addressed the issues, but probably some additional points may help. On the workload, as he had said, filling the critical vacancies is important. But in addition to that, the way forward should include the continued work we do on prioritization. Because some of the workload could be maybe because we haven't done the prioritization in some areas, we haven't completed. As you rightly said in your presentations, you said we need to focus on our core mandate. So if we look at it critically and check against what core mandate is in each and every unit and even the function we do, we may find some work that we may not need to continue to do, and something that we need to sunset or stop doing. So I think continuing that prioritization and checking whether there are some work left that should not be done by WHO, I think we have to be honest on that. And to that end, we had a meeting of senior management 2 weeks ago. We will continue to see critically by going into details of what the functions are done at team level and unit and department level, and make sure that our prioritization is aligned to core mandate norms and standards and the convening. So I think that will be very important to see if we're doing something that we should not do and adding into the workload. Of course, it's when we know that this is something that must do, then we can think about still, okay, it's must do and still it's a heavy load. It needs some additional recruitment or there is a critical vacancy, then we can go to that. The other important thing we decided in WHO is technology can help. We cannot continue to do things the way we always do and expect that we will have less workload or there will be some change if we're doing the same thing. So the best would be we need to ask that question, how can we do what we do differently? Maybe with the use of technology. Then that technology can address the load. So that's the other issue that we're considering. And there is already a first document that was discussed by the management on how to make the organization more used to technologies. And we're also planning trainings on digital technology and AI to all staff. Then, of course, the other issue we're considering is we will have a meeting in Lyon with our collaborating centers. We will identify more areas that could be transferred to collaborating centers. But not only that, we have only 800 collaborating centers, but there are more opportunities in the whole world. So we can recruit more collaborating centers and work with them and work through them. So workload cannot be addressed just by filling vacancies. We can do the three things I have already outlined, but even more to make sure that we do things differently and smartly, because that's the only way, the comprehensive approach to address this issue that can give us the best outcome. Then on geographic representation and gender, as we have seen in our presentations, as Patrick has shown you, the geographic and gender representation before and after the prioritization process is not significantly different. But there are some areas where where there is some loss. And going forward, what we will do is, of course, merit should be at the center. First of all, there should be a fair competition, and merit should be the basis. Then once merit is considered, then we can consider geography and gender. For instance, there could be 3 people who are suitable for that position. If they are suitable, then we bring the geography and representation as a factor to select those less represented countries. Because I hope you will agree with me that we should not compromise merit. So merit is the basis, and then, but we normally find, by the way, people with similar competencies, merit, and then we actively check for geography and gender to improve representations in both geography and gender. And then, of course, the last is our partnership with Staff Association. I would like to join Patrick in thanking our Staff Association. We work closely and we try to involve them, not just engage or brief, but in decisions as well, and that's helping us. So that helps us, and of course we should continue to do more because it helps. And helps us to be grounded on the real situations that come from staff. And that's why we're addressing some of the issues that are coming as well. And I would like to assure you that we will continue to engage more because it has benefits. And we have seen that it really helps to listen to staff directly and also engaging them through their staff association as well. Then on the overall change, of course, you appreciated staff for the resilience, which I join all member states. But I need also to thank you for your support because the impact of the funding cuts could have been more serious if you didn't support us with the transformation and specifically with the finance reform that brought more resources, especially with the decisions that you have made in May 2023 and May 2025. We saved jobs, and people who could have been separated actually stayed. And that helped us not to affect the critical functions of the organization. So your contribution, your support, especially the significant increase in assets contribution, has a role in the stability now we got after the realignment and prioritization. So thank you so much. Without your support, I don't think we would have moved into stability without much time. So thank you so much. So you need to probably appreciate yourselves as well for the support. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, DG. I thought we'd save clapping to the end of the day, but we did it early. So maybe from here on in, we clap every resolution on the way in.
It's to you and everybody.
Okay, thank you. I see no further requests for the floor on this item. So may I take it that the board concurs with the PBAC's recommendations and that the reports contained in documents EB 158/52, EB 158/52 add 1, EB 158/53 and EB 156/54 are therefore noted. I see no objection. The reports are noted. Thank you. Let us now consider the two draft resolutions contained in paragraph 10 of document EB 158/53. First, we shall consider the draft resolution 1, remuneration of staff in the professional and higher categories. Having considered the report of the PBAC, is the board ready to adopt this draft resolution? I see no objection. The resolution is adopted. Next, we shall consider the draft resolution 2, remuneration of staff in ungraded positions and of the Director-General. Having considered the report of PBAC, is the board ready to recommend that the Health Assembly adopt this draft resolution? I see no objection. The resolution is adopted. This concludes our discussion of item 33. In terms of agenda management, I have been advised that the informal consultations have reached a conclusion on the governance paper, but I intend to bring that back after the next item so people are able to get into the room. The intention would be that Norway would present the summary of those consultations and we would share the draft decision on screen so that everyone can read it and have access to it. I'm not keen for that to be a precedent from here on in, even though we're quite late in the meeting, but there's been a lot of good work and obviously a lot of nuance that will be shared in that way, so we're arranging that. Now I will proceed to items 28.5 and 29.1, which are taken together. 28.5 is the proposed amendments to the process for the selection of the external auditor. The relevant report is contained in document EB 158/41, which includes a draft decision in paragraph 10. The financial and administrative implications are contained in document EB 158/41 add 1. As the matter was discussed by the PBAC, I shall draw your attention to the report of the committee contained in document EB 158/4, paragraphs 35 to 37. We'll also be considering 29.1, reform of the Global Health Architecture and the UN 80 initiative, contained in document EB 158/44. As this matter was also discussed by the PBAC, I shall draw your attention to the report of the committee contained in document EB 158/4, paragraphs 32 to 34, including a draft decision. I would like to invite the Secretariat to read out the recommendations of the PBAC. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to item 28.5, proposed amendments to the process of the selection of the external auditor, the committee conveyed its support to the proposed amendments, which would strengthen the quality of the process of selecting the external auditor without compromising the authority of the Health Assembly. The committee recommended that the Executive Board note the report and adopt the draft decision contained therein. With respect to item 29.1, reform of the Global Health Architecture and the UN80 initiative, the committee recommended that the Executive Board note the report and adopt the draft decision contained in paragraph 34 of document EB 158/4. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I will open the floor to Executive Board members. As always in these sort of reports, I'm mainly looking for interventions if you intend to disagree with the recommendations of PBAC, but I've opened the floor to Executive Board members. The floor is open. Sorry? No. Okay. Cabo Verde, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much, Director General. And dear members of the Executive Board, I am speaking on behalf of the African region on this point, on this item, that has to do with management and governance matters of the WHO. The African region would like to reaffirm that robust, transparent, and accountable governance is an essential pillar of the credibility, the effectiveness, as well as the sustainability of the WHO, especially when it comes to all the different crises and challenges, as well as budgetary constraints. We believe that the role of the external auditor is extremely important as an independent guarantor of financial transparency, as well as of the good management of resources. In line with this, the process for the selection of the external auditor, as has been presented by the item 28.5, is extremely important strategically for the credibility of the institution. We underscore the necessity to have a rigorous, transparent, and equitable process that is merit-based in line with the international rules of auditing. The selection criteria has to privilege independence, expertise, the experience in the audit of complex international organizations, as well as the capacities to put forward objective and constructive recommendations. We support an approach that fosters balanced geographical representation, of course, basing ourselves on merit and the absence of conflicts of interest. It is essential to make sure that there is effective coordination between the work of the external auditor, of the Independent Oversight Advisory Committee, as well as the EB, as well as rigorous follow-up on the recommendations. To conclude, the African region would like to reaffirm its commitment in favor of a strong WHO that is effective, that is accountable, that has governance mechanisms that is up to the task, and the reinforcement of transparency, accountability, and trust within the organization and towards the organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Egypt, followed by Bulgaria.
Chair, the member states of the Eastern Mediterranean region welcome the timely report in the context of a rapidly evolving global health landscape marked by declining official development assistance, complex humanitarian emergencies, and highlighted geopolitical tensions. With over half of the countries in our region facing protracted crises, severe fiscal constraints, and recurring service disruptions, proposed reforms to the global health architecture and the UN80 initiative present significant implications and important opportunities. Long-standing fragmentation among global health actors has further strained national health systems, resulting in duplication, parallel structures, and misalignment with national priorities. We welcome the focus of the UN80 initiative on mandate clarity, structural coherence, and more agile country-level operations. The proposed regional-level reset, together with a strengthened role for specialized agencies, offers an opportunity to better support countries in navigating emergency response and health systems recovery, and to address the growing burden of non-communicable diseases and epidemics in fragile and conflict-affected settings. Our region requires a reformed global health architecture that is equitable, resilient, and responsive to conflict, displacement, and fragility. For reform to be meaningful for the Eastern Mediterranean region, it must prioritize country leadership at its core and ensure coherent support across the humanitarian, development, and peace nexus. Moving forward, the member states of the Eastern Mediterranean region recommend 1. A member state-driven global health architecture framework that prioritizes equity and coherence, clarifies rules, and strengthens cross-pillar collaboration. 2. Stronger WHO leadership in coordination with the humanitarian and development health actions across relevant technical domains in line with country realities and needs. 3. Assurance that UNAIDS initiative reforms reinforce country ownership, regional coordination, stakeholder accountability, and effective delivery for populations living amid conflict, displacement, and chronic instability. United in purpose, we are committed to supporting the shaping of a global health architecture that delivers tangible and lasting impact. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Bulgaria, followed by Zimbabwe.
Chair, Bulgaria would like to underline that it does not oppose the proposed decision under item 29.1 and does not wish to open the text for any changes, but would like to reiterate its position. The global health architecture, being complex and constantly evolving, leads to challenges of a diverse nature. Adapting to new realities calls for a comprehensive review of the global health governance system towards achieving more equitable, effective, and sustainable international health policy. GHA reform should ensure a more coordinated response to health emergencies and a greater internal responsibility and accountability to WHO member states. To embark on this journey, a DG report is needed that duly presents a comprehensive gap and risk analysis and an ex-ante impact assessment. It should also clearly demonstrate, considering the present budgetary limitations, how any future initiatives will avoid placing additional financial burden on the organization and its member states. Drawing on lessons learned from COVID-19, Bulgaria strongly emphasizes the need to avoid lengthy intergovernmental processes emerging from these discussions, which risk delaying action and duplicating existing efforts. For these reasons, we view the proposal for a joint action as a technical report that will support informed decision-making and provide guidance to WHO, confirming its mandate to host global health architecture reform to serve as a platform for common dialogue rather than creating another intergovernmental process. Finally, we should not forget the complicated geopolitical circumstances under which the organization functions, and we need to be vigilant to preserve WHO's integrity, carefully considering any further actions and the impact they might have. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Zimbabwe, followed by Poland.
Thank you, Chair. Zimbabwe is honored to deliver this statement on behalf of the 47 member states of WHO African region. We express our gratitude to the Secretariat for the comprehensive report, which underscores the urgent need for a more agile, efficient, and responsive global health ecosystem. We wish to commend WHO Africa Region Office for having taken proactive steps in response to UN requirements, mobilizing resources for efficient initiatives, IT modernization, and structured administrative as well as financial process. The key shifts in the Lusaka agenda, the Accra onset and African Health Sovereign Initiative clearly highlights the need to rethink current models and come up with much aligned and impact on countries. Chair, we take note of the report and highlight the following points. We agree with the need for a joint process that connects the different and fragmented discussions in a collective and complementary way. We strongly believe the member states' full ownership and engagement in the process is critical. WHO being a member states organization and having its three-level system provides a trusted platform for convening such discussions. However, for our region, we wish to emphasize the particular need to be guided by the decisions at the heads of state level. It is of paramount importance to align efforts with the African Union and Africa CDC. We also believe in the need of engagement of global health actors in the part of the solution. Measures need to be put in place to ensure that WHO, being part of the reform process, remains a neutral, trusted convener and follows a transparent, evidence-based process. There are also to be a process to link the outcomes with the political decision under UN General Assembly. Africa region stands ready to contribute to discussion in shaping the global health ecosystem. I thank you.
Thank you. I now call on Poland, followed by Switzerland.
Thank you, Chair. I'm referring to point 29.1 of our discussion. Chair, distinguished colleagues, we thank the DG for the report. We value the inclusion of the discussion on changes in global health architecture into the wider UN 80 reform. The multitude of the global health actors that emerged in the last 20 years were generally profitable for the global health, but at the same time equally created certain level of overlaps and competition for limited resources. These inefficiencies, combined with the changing landscape of development assistance, cause rising pressures on the multilateral system to still deliver in order to save hard-won gains of the past decades. We thank the WHO that despite recent difficulties, it is still able to perform its key functions and provide support to member states. As we consider the design of the joint process, we would like to underline a few overarching expectations. First, this process should be inclusive and transparent, offering space for member states and other actors to contribute meaningfully. Second, the process must use resources efficiently. We should avoid creating a structure that becomes overly complex and consumes disproportionate administrative capacity. Realistic expectations are essential. This must not evolve into an endless exercise, but rather a focused effort that adds value without diverting critical resources from WHO's core functions. Third, the joint process should be aligned with the UN 80 timeline, ensuring complementarity rather than duplication. Poland stands ready to engage in the process and the discussion about the future of the global health architecture. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I give the floor to Switzerland, followed by Cameroon.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Thank you, Chair. Chair, Switzerland commends the report from the DG, and we recognise the importance of ensuring coherence between the many reform initiatives that exist and the UN 80 initiative. We also need to learn from initiatives that are already underway. Switzerland supports efforts to step up cooperation among all those involved in health, and we commend the coordinating role of WHO in accordance with its mandate. We applaud the pragmatic approach taken by WHO Euro and its regional director. In particular, we appreciate the convening of meetings involving directors of health agencies as well as follow-up meetings to strengthen cooperation in priority areas. We strongly recommend that as we seek to define the process, WHO should build on the thinking and the existing initiatives that we have. The outcome of the exercise could then be put to the WHA in 2026. Switzerland wishes to emphasize the fact that any process should be agile, time-bound, based on evidence, and led by the Secretariat with a clear mandate from member states. Switzerland remains fully committed to that process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll give the floor to Cameroon, followed by Japan.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. Cameroon wishes to align itself with the statement delivered by the African region through Zimbabwe. We also thank the DG for his report, and we note the progress that has been made in terms of reforming the GHA in accordance with the new initiatives underway as part of UN 80. When it comes to the reform we are facing today, we know that there has been a drastic cut in the funding available to WHO in order to allow it to carry out its mandate. And the context is also affected by significant crises that are hitting national health systems hard. There's a mismatch between global strategies, WHO's mandate, and national health concerns in member states. For that reason, we call for strong political leadership that is targeted and stepwise in its approach in order to craft and validate technical strategies that can then be endorsed by national policy makers. As for UN80, launched in March last year, this initiative, UN80, is intended to modernize the UN system as a whole to make it more supple, more effective, and more responsive. Cameroon welcomes the efforts made by the African region in seeking to enhance effectiveness, responsiveness, and flexibility in our region, and we call for greater funding to allow us to put in place all of these initiatives. We note the document and we reassert our support for the initiative, the restructuring initiative. We are committed to supporting all of the work that is done in order to strengthen governance structures within WHO and to work with the UN80 initiative in order to enhance accountability, transparency, confidence, and efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now go to Japan, followed by Spain.
Thank you, Chair. On 29.1, we highly appreciate that WHO is undertaking reprioritization in response to challenging environment for global health, as well as the UN80 initiative. Japan has consistently emphasized that this period of crisis should be transformed into an opportunity, and that reforms should enable WHO to focus more sharply on its core mandates, including its normative setting role, the achievement of universal health coverage, and infectious disease emergencies management. This approach, in our view, is fully aligned with the basic principles underlying the UN80 initiative. It is essential that all global health actors return to their core mandates, leveraging their comparative advantages, eliminate duplication, and make the most effective use of limited resources. In this regard, Japan supports the principles of the Lusaka Agenda and considers it important to continue organizing and rationalizing the global health architecture in line with this direction. At the same time, the global health architecture encompasses a wide range of actors beyond the UN system, each with different governance structures. Bringing together and aligning such diverse actors requires an enhanced and proactive role by member states. With this in mind, Japan, in collaboration with WHO and the World Bank, launched the UHC Knowledge Hub last year. In December, the hub convened a UHC high-level forum, providing a platform constructive dialogue on the path forward toward the achievement of UHC, including around the more streamlined global health architecture. On agenda item 28.5, we appreciate the establishment of a review panel composed of representatives from each region, and also emphasize the importance of ensuring fairness, transparency, and equal access to information, including those used in review panel in the process for all member states. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Spain, followed by El Salvador.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Spain would like to refer to 29.1, reform of the global health architecture. We would like to thank the Secretariat for the document. We would like to promote a renewed multilateralism that is effective, that is based on rules with the UN at its center of this, and this is why we support the UN80 initiative. In July of 2025, Spain hosted in Seville the fourth meeting for sustainable financing, and out of this, there was the Seville Action Plan. We would like to support the reform of the global health architecture in line with the UN80 initiative for it to be more cohesive, member state-driven, and aligned with strategies for sustainable funding. The reform that we must all undertake has to preserve and strengthen the key role of the WHO as a normative entity and its global convening possibilities. We also need to work with other health actors to reduce duplication and improve synergies. We think that the end of UN AIDS should be done in a very orderly way, and we need to listen to civil society. When it comes to the current crises, that does not only affect the WHO, but also other vertical funds. We do think that we need to diversify and modernize sources of funding. We support innovative funding mechanisms and reinvestments in the healthcare systems. Spain is a pioneer of some of these innovative financing systems. We need to make sure that we have a sustainable and predictable funding. And Spain has been very much involved in the investment round, and we committed $60 million in this investment round. Lastly, we need to have ownership by the different countries regarding their own healthcare systems. We would do reinforce and prioritize technical assistance with impact in the field. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now call on El Salvador, followed by Poland.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The UN80 initiative reform is an opportunity for us to stop managing just crises and manage well-being. Instead, the new global health architecture needs to be effective, and it needs to be economically intelligent and well-functioning. We need to think of the rehabilitation as a engine for change. We need to make sure that rehabilitation included in primary health care. This is not just an expense, this is investment that is necessary to recover productivity and the autonomy of our populations. Moreover, considering health as a global public good is important. The new pandemic treatment must guarantee productive local sovereignty. We cannot depend rather, we need to make sure that human functionality is the main indicator of our new global health architecture. Thank you.
Thank you. I now call on Poland, followed by the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies for taking the floor again. I want to make one clarification because maybe I wasn't super clear. Our intention, of course, is not to reopen the text, or we do not oppose the decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Poland, for that clarification. I now go to the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Chair. The Republic of Korea strongly supports the UN80 initiative as a vital step to strengthen multilateralism. With respect to WHO, priority should be given to advancing the UN80 initiative by pursuing the consolidation and rationalization of overlapping health-related mandates within the UN system. In doing so, WHO's core functions, particularly regarding its role in setting health norms and standards, should be further reinforced to preserve its distinct technical leadership. Reform should also enhance country-level delivery and regional synergies. For instance, the Republic of Korea's global training hub for biomanufacturing with WHO would serve as a model for translating global standards into regional manufacturing capacity, aligning with the goal of strengthening regional health architectures. Finally, we hope that the WHO-led joint process will be aligned with the UN80 initiatives to ensure the coherence and avoid duplications, serving as a catalyst for more agile and robust global health architecture. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no other members of the Executive Board seeking the floor. Therefore, I'll formally open the floor to non-EB member states. I give the floor to China, followed by Singapore.
Mr. Chair, China commends WHO for its active participation in the UN80. China believes that, first, the fundamental challenge facing the global health governance system is the sharp reduction in development funds. Developed countries should earnestly fulfill their pledged global development obligations and increase ODA. Second, although the global health governance system is imperfect, it remains effective. WHO is the most representative and universal health agency. Member states should support WHO in continuously playing its central coordinating role in the system. Third, the ultimate users of global health governance are member states. Related reform must be member states-led and consensus-based, following the principles of transparency, inclusiveness, and openness, and accommodating all member states, especially the interest of developing countries. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I call on Singapore, followed by Canada.
Chair, Singapore thanks the Secretariat for the report and welcomes the timely discussion on reform of the global health architecture. Singapore supports reform efforts that strengthen coherence, reduce fragmentation, remove duplication, and reinforce country ownership, while preserving the core normative and convening functions of WHO. Reform should be guided by the clarity of mandate, subsidiarity, and accountability across all actors. Singapore welcomes WHO's proposal to host an inclusive member state-led guided process to align global health architecture reform. We stand ready to contribute constructively. Such a process to be transparent, evidence-based, and member state guided, with appropriate engagement of regional organizations, development banks, civil society, academia, and the private sector. The process should build on the ongoing discussions and reform streams, including outcome documents cited in the Secretary's report, rather than duplicate outreach to stakeholders that have already given inputs. Alignment across these reform streams will be important to sustain momentum and ensure that reform efforts translate into practical outcomes. Our written statement expands on our views. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Canada, followed by Zambia.
Thank you, Chair. Canada reaffirms the central role of WHO in advancing a coherent vision for reform of the global health architecture. We concur with Dr. Tedros' opening remarks on Monday. We must think of the architecture as an ecosystem of diverse actors working together towards common goals. We therefore support the recommendation for WHO to host a joint time-bound process, one that brings together the various strands of UN80 and ongoing global health reform efforts, and promotes a shared understanding of core and complementary functions, guiding principles and milestones. We welcome the commitment to transparency and inclusive participation. We must design a process that WHO and its member states can afford, both in terms of cost and time. It must be light, streamlined and focused, ensuring it adds value to existing efforts and avoids duplication. Canada looks forward to engaging constructively in the next steps of designing the process. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Zambia, followed by Mexico.
Thank you, Chair. Zambia aligns with the Africa Group statements. Zambia welcomes the UN80 initiative during these unprecedented times, which require organizational agility, efficiency, effectiveness, and realignment for a fit-for-purpose United Nations. If well implemented, this initiative can contribute to the enhancement of efficiencies in the United Nations. Zambia emphasizes that reforms should not only focus on cost reductions, but also on impact, longevity, equity, and sustainability. Mindful of the advancement of discussions under the UN80 and recognizing the numerous proposals on the global health architecture reform, a coherent and unifying consultative process that advances multi-sectoral dialogue in global health is urgently required in order to build synergies. Therefore, Zambia supports the proposal to design a joint consultative process which will be hosted by the WHO and led by member states, aimed at building a common framework for global health. Zambia reaffirms its position that the WHO is an umbrella agency of global health. Therefore, the joint consultative process should outline shared expectations for collaboration and collective capacity and actions. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Mexico, followed by Ethiopia.
Thank you very much, dear Chair. Mexico recognizes that some of the most tangible achievements of multilateralism have been attained in the field of international public health. Nevertheless, the current context demands that we reform the functioning of the UN, especially the WHO, to improve its effectiveness, reduce overlap, and generate synergies. Mexico would like to underscore that the reforms of the WHO, as well as the UN80 initiative, have to be aligned and be discussed in parallel. This would guarantee consistency as well as completeness. We agree that these reforms can not only be limited to budgetary cuts, they should rather guide a new global health architecture that is more equitable, that are more inclusive, and with better accountability. In line with this, it is essential to safeguard the normative, technical, and coordination role of the WHO, and to have a very clear, critical roadmap with realistic timelines under the leadership of member states. We will send our full statement in writing. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Ethiopia, followed by Malaysia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ethiopia aligns with the African regional statements. We thank the Director General for the report on the reform of the global health architecture and the UN80 initiative. We are at a critical juncture with an opportunity to redesign the global health ecosystem. We support the call for strengthening the core mandates of WHO and also welcome the proposal for WHO to host a joint process. We believe this helps to connect the different discussions, building on the Lusaka agenda and the Accra reset. We see three critical issues for the success of the process. One is the member states' ownership and meaningful participation. The second, a transparent, evidence-based process with the engagement of all global health actors. And third, a strong and ongoing engagement with regional institutions and alignment with the decisions by the heads of states. Ethiopia stands ready for an active and constructive engagement moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Malaysia, followed by France.
Thank you, Chair. Malaysia notes with concern the growing strain on the multilateral global health system and the progress of the UN80 initiative. In this context, Malaysia echoes the call for global health reform to go beyond cost-saving measures. They should aim to make global health governance more equitable, inclusive, coordinated, and accountable. In this connection, Malaysia would like to suggest that the reform process focus on three themes. 1, governance and accountability. 2, financing sustainability. And 3, protection of core global health functions. We support the development of a common framework for the global health architecture that promotes fairness, accountability, and transparency without compromising its consistent and coherent delivery. I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to France, followed by Ecuador.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Chair. WHO is the only legitimate body that can bring together all global health players. We need WHO to bring people together, and we need that today more than ever. We welcome the fact that WHO at the next WHA intends to come to member states with a detailed proposal for inclusive discussion as to how we can enhance efficiency and effectiveness within the global health ecosystem. We would call major external actors to take ownership of that process also, the process under the auspices of WHO, and to contribute significantly to it. We encourage all of those involved with the GHA to support the process led by WHO. Thank you.
I give the floor to Ecuador, followed by Germany.
Thank you very much, dear Chair. Ecuador welcomes the presentation of the report on the reform of the global health architecture as well as the UN80 initiative. We recognize the relevance of both processes in a context where there is a drop in international aid and more demands on the multilateral system. Against this backdrop, Ecuador has strengthened the stewardship of the Ministry for Health, prioritizing epidemiological surveillance, preparedness, and response to health emergencies, as well as interinstitutional coordination. We believe that we need to make sure that we focus on a global health architecture that is more coherent, equitable, sustainable, and focused on country needs. In line with this, Ecuador believes that it is essential that the joint process that has been proposed be led by the WHO, that it should have a clear mandate, clear stages, as well as concrete results, and make sure that there is a convergence between the UN80 initiative as well as the reform of the global health architecture. Lastly, we would like to make an appeal to strengthen the alignment between both processes and to make sure that the WHO plays a central role in this.
Very much. I give the floor to Germany.
Germany aligns with the EU statement. We strongly support the PBAC recommendation. Let us be clear about what we are asking WHO to do. We are giving green light for WHO to design a proposal for a joint process. We expect WHO to convene relevant global health actors in the design of the proposal to achieve co-ownership. Thereby, the EB decision launches the first step, the design phase that is not a decision-making process and does not preempt the outcome of this process. The joint proposal will be presented at WHA for member states to discuss. Member states therefore have their say on the scope, modalities, and expectations of the process. Discussions on global health reform are already taking place in various fora. We therefore need an agile joint process with WHO in its convening role. For that, member states must give WHO green light today. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Jamaica.
Thank you, Chair. On agenda item 29.1, Jamaica supports the PBAC's recommendation. However, we request that the EB accepts the recommendation with a minor adjustment to reflect the correct name of the informal ad hoc working group on mandate implementation review, which is a part of the UN80 initiative. We welcome this collaborative approach as a good manifestation of a cultural shift in approaches to decision-making across the UN system. Thank you.
Thank you. I see there are no other member states taking the floor. I might just ask the Secretary not to reply now, to think about the question about where is that reference and therefore can it be amended. Obviously the intent is to get it right, so in principle it's not an issue. Sorry, Jamaica.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's a very, it's not a substantive change. The proposal would be in the preamble section, so where it says informal ad hoc working group, we propose inserting on mandate implementation review, which reflects the correct name of the working group. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamaica. The Secretariat advised me that's acceptable. Thank you. I see no other member states wishing to seek the floor. I do have UNFPA is seeking the floor. You have the floor now.
UNFPA welcomes the chance to speak at this item on the DG's report on the reform of the global health architecture. WHO's role in setting norms and providing evidence-based policy advice is of vital importance. Any reform must be underpinned by a revitalization of multilateralism centered on country-led priorities and seamless interagency cooperation. Therefore, we advocate for a reform process that enhances national leadership and ensures that global initiatives are well integrated into the national health systems, policies, and frameworks. UNFPA maintains that any reform must ensure that sex and reproductive health and rights remain central to member states' efforts to deliver universal health coverage. And in line with our mandate, we stand ready to support this work through our programmatic, technical, and operational capacity. Subject to the Executive Board's consideration, UNFPA is committed to supporting WHO in developing a common framework on reform of the global health architecture. I thank you.
Thank you very much. We now have three non-state actors who will take the floor. The first is International Federation of Pharmaceutical Manufacturers and Associations. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm delivering this statement under agenda item 29.1. The innovative pharmaceutical industry views this process as a critical opportunity to build a stronger, truly fit-for-purpose global health architecture. As a trusted and official partner, IFPMA remains fully committed to working with WHO, member states, and all stakeholders to support a process that delivers sustainable and pragmatic solutions for reform. We believe that three priorities are essential for lasting impact. 1. Foster an environment where health innovation can thrive. 2. Strengthen health systems so innovations reach the people who need them. 3. Forge partnerships to advance health globally. We look forward to engaging meaningfully on this process and to working together toward a healthier future for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Apologies, there has also been a request for call for Gavi and UNICEF. So I'll first call Gavi. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Today's crisis in global health demands a transformative leap in how we organize and deliver health for all. To drive meaningful reform of the global health architecture, Gavi supports the proposal that WHO hosts a joint process. There is an urgent need to use the present global health crisis as a catalyst for strategic reform of the global health ecosystem, with countries and partners aligned on an agreed scope, objectives, and process for reform. Reform should clarify the role of each institution and focus on 4 priorities: generating global public goods, enabling impact at scale, merging operations at the last mile, and strengthening support for fragile contexts. Gavi's own transformation, the Gavi Leap, reflects this broader shift and offers principles that can inform a wider global health leap. Gavi stands ready to work with WHO and all partners to advance a more coherent, effective, and a resilient global health ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you. I now call on UNICEF. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for letting UNICEF take the floor. We are at a major inflection point on global health. For the last decades, we've achieved remarkable progress on child survival and maternal mortality. This success is the result of strong political leadership and commitment from member states, as well as targeted investments from countries and donors and the dedicated work of health workers, including community health workers. Through these efforts, UNICEF, WHO, and health partners such as Gavi have been able to deploy new life-saving innovations at scale that have saved millions of lives. Yet the declining health budgets provide major challenges, and the reform on the global health architecture is going to redefine how power, financing, and accountability are distributed. To achieve something that is fit for purpose for the future, we need a well-designed, transparent, and inclusive process. UNICEF therefore supports the proposal, and we will work with WHO to design and engage in the proposed joint processes going forward. For UNICEF, it is clear that in all reform processes, child survival and well-being must be non-negotiable. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I now go back to non-state actors, and the NCD Alliance has the floor.
On agenda item 29.1, declines in ODA and geopolitical strain are placing pressures on the global health architecture. Multiple reform initiatives are taking place across a range of actors and forums, and without stronger alignment, this fragmentation risks undermining coherence and effective engagement for member states and partners. We recognise WHO's role in directing and coordinating authority on international health and stress that reform must go beyond efficiency measures to foster greater equity, accountability and impact. We urge member states to support WHO in hosting a joint process with clear scope, transparency, defined outputs, regular reporting and sustained civil society participation. However, NCDs must be fully integrated into GHA reform discussions as they account for a major share of the global burden of disease and lack dedicated global institutions and financing mechanisms, making them particularly vulnerable to be sidelined.
Thank you. I have another body that was taking the floor. I will give the floor to the Global Fund.
Thank you very much, Chair. The Global Fund Partnership is fully engaged in responding to the changing context, ensuring that we maximize our collective support to countries in their path to self-reliance. We are contributing to the evolving ecosystem by engaging in multiple related initiatives and transforming our own operations. The global health ecosystem has delivered tremendous progress, but it must evolve. Our reform vision is underpinned by African leaders' push for health sovereignty and the imperative of sustainability. We are leveraging our next grant cycle to accelerate transformation and the path to self-reliance with clear transition pathways for countries. The Global Fund is one part of the ecosystem, and we welcome focused action to ensure that the full ecosystem, including civil society, communities, and the private sector, works seamlessly together. We're committed to playing our role, guided by our board and building on our comparative advantages and strategic focus. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I go to the International Pharmaceutical Students Federation. You have the floor.
Honourable Chair, delegates, the International Pharmaceutical Students Federation, IPSF, welcomes the DG's report and sees the reform of global health architecture and the UN80 initiative as a critical opportunity to build a stronger and true purpose-driven system. However, as current or future healthcare providers, we are deeply concerned about shrinking official development assistance and fragmentation, risking undermining hard-won health gains, such as those on polio or NCDs. We therefore call on the WHO and member states to develop and refine an efficient system with built-in equity and solidarity. Protect predictable financing and strong WHO leadership aligned with country-led plans, regional strategies, and the Lusaka agenda. Consistency is key. Invest in youth skills to design, implement, and monitor fairer, sustainable global health architecture. IPSF, with our global and local presence in 100 countries, or more than that, stands ready to co-shape this agenda with you to meet current and future health needs locally and globally. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now ask the Secretariat to respond to any of those questions with Dr. Bruce Aylward, Director, Global Preparedness Monitoring Board, and also coordinating work on the UN80 initiative. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And as we didn't have specific questions, I can be very quick and just appreciate, Mr. Chair, your steer, the work of the PBAC and the work of this board, as well as the comments of member states. I'd like to especially single out and thank our partners who are here in the room today and committed to this inclusive joint process as we move forward to bring greater coherence and impact to the global health architecture in the context of UN80. Mr. Chair, I think we heard a very clear steer in terms of the principles that have to underpin this process, as well as a number of comments on the process itself. So as we enter the design phase, I'd like to assure you this will be very much member state driven. We will be in very close consultation throughout with the member states, and we look forward to returning in May with a detailed proposal as requested.
Thank you very much. As I say, no more requests for the floor. May I take it that the board is ready to agree with the recommendations of the PBAC and to note the reports contained in documents EB 158/41 and EB 158/44. I see no objections. The reports are noted. This concludes Let us now consider one draft decision contained in document EB 158/41 in respect of the process of selecting the external auditor. Is the board ready to adopt the draft decision provided in paragraph 10 of the document EB 158/41? I see no objection. The decision is therefore adopted. Thank you. Let us proceed to consider one draft decision proposed by the Program Budget and Administration Committee contained in document EB 158/4 in respect of the reform of the global health architecture and the UN80 initiative. Is the board ready to adopt the draft decision provided in following paragraph 34, document EB 158/4? I note that will be as amended to pick up the Jamaican comment in terms of getting the terminology right. So I'll repeat that. Is the board ready to adopt the draft decision as amended, provided in following paragraph 34, document EB 158/4? I see no objection. The decision is therefore adopted. Thank you. This concludes the board's consideration of item 28.5 and 29.1. Let us turn to the next item, which is returning back to item 28.4. The governance reforms. When we suspended this, there had been a request for informal consultations. Dr. Loftus, the first Vice Chair, helped convene those consultations. They went on extensively on the back of very long consultations prior to this. I understand that there has been a text of which there is a high degree of support. I also understand that the Secretariat has emailed that text to all delegations, so if you need to look at it, you will have access to it. But I'm going to hand over to Dr. Loftus in the first instance to run through the decision. And just for the benefit of the timekeepers, I don't see this as a Norwegian intervention, the normal thing. This is supporting the committee, so I wouldn't be applying the usual 2-minute time limit. Dr. Loftus, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Chair. And as you said, this is as first Vice Chair, and we've been given the privilege to have 2 consultations or 2 informals now to find consensus in an extremely important items for the Bureau. Is it possible to have the text with the track changes on screen? Because then everybody can see what's... It's track changes from the last version that every member states had a revised decision, and now we had these informals during lunch, and then we have made some additional changes, and I wanted to show to every member state what these changes are, so they can see that we have listened to all the statements from different member states and try to take everything into account. So if we can have the version with track changes, I will go through it.
Why
you.
don't we just pause until that is up on the screen? I know the Secretariat has it because they've handed it to me in hard copy. Fantastic. It's now on the screen. Back to you, Dr. Loftus.
Thank you. So now you can all see the revised version on screen. So the first changes is that we have deleted the word X-rated. Some member states said that that was hard to understand what's X-rated. It's used in the document, but we have listened to the member states and deleted that word. And it was also a bit confused when we were going to start this pilot phase. So to make everything clear, we are just now talking about when it starts in OPE 3. So we have deleted it in OPE 1. So that's the two changes in OPE 1. And then in OPE 2, and okay, I can mention one more thing about OPE 1, because OPE 1 is, if you go back, OPE 1 also refers to OPE 2A, so it's totally clear that it's just the measures that we have reached consensus about that we will start piloting. Then if we go to OPE 2, we have stated that it's member states, we are going to have inclusive member states consultations at both global and regional level. So that's the changes in OPE 2. I think this is not the right version because I wanted track changes from the version that we sent out to every member state. So this is actually not the right version. So I think, Chair, could I ask for 2 minutes pause just to have the right version?
Yes, let's do a 2-minute pause just so we make sure we have the right document in front of us. Hoping if we have the right document, we can proceed reasonably quickly once we've done that. So we'll just pause for a couple of minutes.
Okay.
I understand that the Secretariat has the text and very shortly it will be on the screen. So if people could make their way to their seats, I'll give people a minute or so to make their way to the seats, and then we will proceed. So just for clarity, what we're doing here is, I think, the thing that's best for these delegates. It'll be a track changes from the EB 158/36 Add 1 Rev 1 as it was first distributed, with track changes to what is being proposed following the informal consultations. And that's the right track changes. The other track changes there, I think, reflect toing and froing within the informal consultation group. And I think this is probably an example with that many track changes of the old adage that you don't want to watch sausages be made. And so this is saving us from watching the sausage making process. I see that pretty well everyone has resumed at their seats. Again, I will ask Dr. Loftus to lead us through the amendments from the original Rev 1. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. And as you said, this is the changes from Rev 1 and after the informal consultation we had during lunch. So thank you to every member state that engaged in this, because I think this is really important for us all. So one suggestion was that it was going to be clear that we just will pilot the agreed reforms and the measures referred to in OP 2A. So that's why we put in the word agree. That was one suggestion. Another suggestion was that the word accelerated, what is accelerated reform measures? So we deleted accelerated, so now we are talking about the reform measures. And it was also a bit confusion, when do we start piloting this? And we have to design the pilot phase, so that's why we deleted the last sentence in OP 1. And I will come back to the period in OP 3. So that is the changes in OP 1. So then we go to OP 2. And then we have put in that we want an inclusive member states consultations. We want inclusive member states consultation at both global and regional level. That was also emphasized from several member states. And in OP 2A, we have removed the word principles and put in the word provisions. That was also a suggestion. And we have deleted the word system after pilot, because we talk about the pilot. We don't have a pilot system, we are talking about the pilot. Then I have to say that it's one suggestion that we didn't follow up, and that's the only suggestion we didn't follow up. That's the duration of the pilot phase. Some member states wanted us to just have a 1-year duration. But that was actually settled during PBAC, because both the Secretariat and Dr. Tedros were explaining why we need a 2-year period to really pilot these reforms. Then we go to OP 2B. And we had this to introduce co-sponsorship from 3 countries across 2 regions, because that was one region suggesting so. But some member states wanted us to change that wording, so now we encourage co-sponsorship from 3 countries across 2 regions. And then we go to OP 2C. And that was to clarify that some measures we haven't reached consensus about, and they are stated in OP 2C, and that to emphasize that we are changing some words, so now it's to further discuss through an all member states consultation process the elements that we haven't reached consensus about. And we also have on the, we have deleted to seek consideration of these issues and put in whether they might be included at a later stage in the pilot. So that's the measures we need further consultations about. So that's OPE 2C. And in OPE 3, we have emphasized that the Executive Board are going to consider agreement at its 159th session. And what happens then? Then it will follow which an all member state group, they should lead feedback into the pilot, including contributions to an evaluation, which will cover the full duration of the pilot. So that's what happens afterwards. And then we go to OPE 4. And OPE 4 is just now in line with the other, with the rest of the decision. So that's why we have done some minor changes there as well. And then we have really, and I have really tried to listen to all of you, tried to find consensus, and I hope from the bottom of my heart that it's possible now to not start to have discussions about one word there or one word there, because we have really tried to listen to all of you now and to find consensus. I know this is not perfect, but this is a start, and we are going to work together along the way. So I really hope that you feel that we have listened and that we have tried to capture all the statements and that we have found a way of reaching consensus. So then I go back to you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to express my appreciation to your efforts in doing that. I'd also like to express my appreciation for all member states who participated in that informal, which was a couple of hours of really good engagement from what I hear. I wasn't there, but I was hearing it. I'm also aware that there was a lot of engagement post-PBAC when the Bureau was developing its first Rev 1 draft, and there has been a lot of informal consultations on a bilateral basis before we got to the session today where it was being negotiated on screen. So I won't put it yet, but ultimately I will move to a position where we ask the board to adopt EB 158/36 Add 1 Rev 1 as amended, as shown on the screen. Before I formally put that, I will just give the opportunity to the floor in the first instance to Executive Board members, and then I will throw it more widely. Are there any Executive Board members who wish to take the floor, or are they feeling at 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon that they might move to a decision point? I'm looking at the floor. I'm not seeing any EB member seeking to take the floor. Oh, sorry, Nepal.
Thank you, Chair. My delegation thanks the Chair for spearheading the process, starting from our deliberations in the same room during the PBAC meeting last week. At these critical times, reforming the governance structure of the World Health Organization is a matter of priority for Nepal. Reform is even more important as we look forward to a revitalized organization at the heart of global health architecture. Particularly, we express our gratitude to the Vice Chair, Dr. Loftus, for leading the informal consultations today as well as earlier this week. Thank you for your hard work and patience in leading this sausage-making exercise. Thank you for listening to all the voices that engaged in the spirit of readiness to make a draft decision on this important agenda item possible. We also thank all the member states for the frank exchanges that we could have during the informal consultations. And it is exactly such kind of consultations that we look forward in the days to come. Mr. Chair, we look forward to continue engaging actively and constructively in in the consultations on governance reform process during the intersessional period, a task that we collectively are assigning on ourselves. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nepal. Thank you very much. I will now open the floor to any non-EB members who wish to make an intervention at this point before I move to formally putting the motion. I acknowledge the Russian Federation. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And I thank Dr. Loftus for the efforts put in to try to achieve consensus and for all of the striving that we have noted. We recognise the reluctance to discuss some specific wording. And nonetheless, there are 2 points we'd like to highlight. Firstly, the title. And we have the word accelerated still in here, accelerated reform measures. As we understand it, if we take accelerated out from the body of the decision, it would also be appropriate to take it out from the title. That's the first point. Secondly, OP3. Unfortunately, we didn't get an answer to our question about the use of the word evaluation. If we're talking here about assessing or evaluating the secretariat strength, then we would ask that rather than evaluation, we would have the word assessment. Thank you.
We'll come back in a second to whether there's a member of the Executive Board that seconds that suggestion, but I'll go to China and then we might see how to proceed. I must admit, the first issue, deleting accelerated from the title, seems to be consistent with the spirit. I think evaluation is a very common term that I think you would use in these contexts, but I make that comment. I now just go to China.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to echo our Russian colleague in delete accelerate in the title. This is the first proposal. And the second one is at the end of OP2A, the measures trailed. In the spirit of being consistency, can we change it to piloted measures? The third point is in OP2B, the co-sponsorship encourage 3 member states from 2 regions is not consistent with the document listed in EB 158/36 in paragraph 14A and the third paragraph in this part. So we might need some editorial changes. And the fourth and the last point is in OP3. We would like to change the first sentence to request the officers of the board, not emphasizing the current sitting officers, in consultation with member states to report on the future modalities of pilot. Thank you.
I'll pass the floor to Norway to reply. The one thing I would comment on, though, is the EB 15836 was the original document, and these decisions effectively modify that document and say what is the intention. So where these decisions don't seek to overturn or modify EB 1536, then that is the text that's being picked up when the paragraphs are cross-referenced. But this decision would override what was previously there on that particular paragraph. The original EB 15836 had 3 regional consultations. That is one thing that there was extensive member state engagement with because a number of member states didn't accept that. The item here, which had originally require 3 countries from 2 regions, was a compromise put forward by one of the regions during the consultations before Rev 1 was put forward. This has softened that even further to move to encourage rather than a mandatory requirement. So that's a sequence there. I'll ask Dr. Loftus to pick up the others, Norway to pick up the others. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I will propose then that we delete the word accelerated from the heading of the paper, so we can sort out that, because that's in line with all the other changes. So I'm sorry I didn't pick up that before. We didn't discuss that during the consultations. And then just to clarify that it's correct that in OPE 2B, the text in OPE 2B is not the same text as in the report, and that's why we lifted it out in a separate point, because, and that was, as Chair said, proposal from one of the regions. Because in the report it says that it should be co-sponsorship from 3 regions, but now it's not introduced, it's encouraged co-sponsorship from 2 countries across 2 regions. So that's why that's in a separate decision point. And then I must ask China if they could repeat the last point, because I didn't get that. I'm sorry.
Okay. The last part is in OP3. Yes. We would like to propose a change of this paragraph into to request the officers of the EB in consultation with member states to report on future modalities of the pilot for the consideration of EB at its 159th session. Thank you.
If I may, from the chair, I mean, the practical challenge there is that you are asking the officers of board to do the work in that 3-month period, and then the addition that's been negotiated in that room then has member state groups leading feedback on the pilot and then putting further input. So, you know, I think that that's where the group landed. I'm in this world here of being a little concerned about how much we would reopen here. I'd also at some point would need to see, is there another executive board member that support that change? Just before we do that, you also made another request, China, which was to remove the reference to the current sitting officers of the board. I wouldn't mind getting the view of Norway on that. Because this is making reference to the 159th session, the current sitting, unless legal advise me otherwise, they're the only members of the board. It's not like they're going to, I mean, this is not an intention to carry on the officers of the board beyond when their terms would end anyway. Yeah. So in other words, it's almost not an operative provision. You could delete it with no...
No, but it's the current officers
yeah.
rather than the ones who will be sitting in 159.
Yeah, but they have to do the work before 159 to provide the report. Yeah. I want to pass now to Norway.
Okay, I really always want to reach consensus, but we can sit here and discuss words, and I really try to listen. But I will, in the sake of consensus, because I always want to reach consensus, I will suggest one more change, that we in OPE 2A, that the last word is piloted instead of trialed. And then my reading of this, just to answer China, is that now the Bureau members or the officers of the Bureau will have consultations with all member states, globally and regionally, and then we have to report back. So the reporting back is after we've done all the consultations, so you have the consultations. So I think that's taken care of. That's the way I read this now. So in the sake of consensus, I really ask you, can we now live with this text? That's my suggestion now, Chair. I think everything is taken care of.
Yes,
Thank you.
I think we've gone a long way. I'm going to recognise Nepal and then Zambia, and then my intention at that point would be put this revised decision to the board. Oh, I see Indonesia as well. I will take those three. Zambia first. Sorry, Nepal. Sorry, Nepal.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to ask a question. For the 159th Executive Board, when will the Bureau members or the officers of the board be elected? What would be the difference of time between that election of Bureau and the commencement of the upcoming session of the Executive Board? Based on that response, I'll further clarify.
I'll ask legal counsel to comment on the timing.
Thank you. The current members of the Bureau, the officers of the board, serve until the end of the Health Assembly. The new board sits at its 159th meeting and elects its new officers then. So if you talk about the officers of the board, they would change as of the end of the Health Assembly, and so it would be the old officers who would have conducted the review, and it would, presumably you would want them rather than the new officers to report to the board on its 159th session, which I understand is why you have the reference to the current sitting officers to make clear they don't suddenly stop this task the day before they have to report it.
Nepal?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks to legal for that clarification. With that understanding, my delegation sees merit in the language as it is drafted now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nepal. I appreciate this. I will then go to Indonesia and Zambia, and then I do intend to close the list, and I'll come back and put the proposal to the Executive Board. Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We support the governance reform, but we want it to be carried out in the right way. And we appreciate efforts made by others to explore common grounds. I think we can go along with the wording in the chapeau of OP2 on the understanding that it should be interpreted in a manner that enables meaningful consultation among all member states in Geneva, complementing processes taking place in the region, including with a view to reconciling elements emerging from different regional consultations, some of which may be contradictory. Now, such consultations will be particularly important also to operationalize the mandates in OP2A and OP2C. We also support to have consistency between the title and the wording in OP1. Thank you.
Thank you. I now go to Zambia.
Thank you, Chair. So we just want to add some comments. Firstly, to join everyone in thanking Norway for holding the informals, and also Dr. Loftus for her patience and also the insights that she shared, and also other member states for their contributions. We do agree on 2A that we change the word trialed to piloted. And then on 3 also, we had proposed during the informal that we should say for the consideration of the board as opposed to saying agreement. If we say to consider agreement, we're already preempting what the board should do. So we just say for consideration of the board at its 159th session. And this was also a proposal that the esteemed delegate from China had made. Thank you.
Dr. Loftus, do you have a comment on that? I know you are bending over backwards to seek consensus. I wasn't in the drafting session, so I know sometimes words that look innocuous took 3 hours to get to.
Could you please help me, Chair, because I'm trying to do two things in the same place.
So the question put by Zambia was, in 3, it says on future melodies of the pilot, and I think they would prefer for consideration by the Executive Board at its 159th sessions. Whereas this has a thing to consider agreement, which some delegations are saying kind of preempts what the Executive Board would do. I personally don't think that's the case, but I just wonder whether what was the consideration in the room.
Okay, once more, but we can't stay on longer like this, because then we've never ever have the possibility to go home. But once more, in the sake of consensus, we can say for the consideration of the Executive Board at its 159th session. And then I must say, I really hope we are done. Then I'm trying and trying and trying and trying. I hope you see that, and I really hope that we can settle this text now. Please.
So, I am going to put to the board, is the board ready to adopt the draft decision as amended, contained in a document EB 158/36, Add 1, Rev 1? I see no objections. The decision is therefore adopted. Well, it is now 2 minutes before our scheduled break. I think at this point everyone deserves a break. Sorry. I'm reminded on this item there is one other decision. Celebrate and then back to the grind. The other decision was also under this EB 28.4. So we now consider, following the guidance of PBAC, the draft decision contained in the appendix of document EB 158/37 regarding a sustainable model for member state-led governance reform. Is the board ready to adopt the draft decision contained in document EB 158/37? I see no objection. The decision is therefore adopted. Thank you. That's only a minor clap. This concludes the board's consideration of sub-item 28.4. Let us move to the next item after the break, which we will go to FENSA. We will go to 28.6. Please, we want to start back at 6 o'clock. We all want to be out of here tonight, I think is a common objective. I suspend the session. We'll be back at 6